let's say like you do meet someone online, in the past it was like you could sort of take longer to kind of figure out like, what are you? Where is this going? And now it's sort of like, to be safe, you kind of have to agree to like be in each other's bubbles, sort of, right? So how, if you want to meet up in real life, so how do we navigate that?
Yeah, what have people been doing? I'm such a casual person that this whole thing is like making my skin itch.
That's real. That's real. People are not rushed, I think. But let me just say, like, these are anecdotal, right? Like, I don't have like a peer-reviewed study on this, right? Like, I think, like, again, to lean into the technology and to just conversations, you have an opportunity to actually talk and get to know, is it worth you to have, expanding your bubble to meeting this person? There's a lot of outdoor activities. I mean, I'm located in New York City. I never knew I could be outside in the cold this much. And yet here we are and we're doing it. And I can't believe we've made it through this winter, and I'm excited about that. So I feel like folks are leaning into the creativity, leaning into what's available to them around, wearing masks, layering up, finding outdoor ways to meet in person. And then what I've seen is folks are having real conversations, and when they decide to both understand what each person's current experience looks like around a pod or a bubble, and then what it looks like to bring those bubbles together. Mm-hmm. So it really, again, leans into, I think, the communication, the understanding of my own boundaries, you understanding yours, and figuring out how we bring those things together. I've read stories of people meeting online in this last year, and then dating online, and then finally deciding to meet, and then moving in together.
Oh yeah. Look, I'm queer. I've seen that. People have like bought houses. Everyone's engaged. It's like fucking nightmare.
Folks are doing stuff.
Not that queer women weren't doing that before, but oh man, is it really ramped up. What if you are, though, a more casual person? Like, I've definitely had friends who are like, okay, we're going to meet up for like a night, but now it's like, we're getting tested, you're getting tested. It's a whole thing. Like, it feels like old school STD testing a little bit.
And also let's just name it. There's stigma around COVID in the same way that there's stigma around STIs. I think that different folks are making different decisions based on their own comfort level. I mean, I think from a guidance standpoint, the CDC guidance is clear. Mm-hmm. And so to the extent that folks take it into consideration, and then make the best decisions, because I think the truth is, like, physical touch is also important. And how do you get that need met?
Yeah.
While considering the real, like, the science is real, and we're learning more and more about this virus. And so I think acknowledging all those truths and trying to do the best we can to protect one another.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I see so many like amazing women online talking about that they've been alone for a year, and like I can tell it's so hard, and they're being such responsible citizens. But I also feel like I wish that they would sort of prioritize like what we were talking about in terms of like getting these needs met, because I feel like sometimes people feel like it's selfish to do that, or like it's dangerous. But if you meet somebody and you do have those conversations about getting tested and all of that, like it is relatively safe to join bubbles, right?
It depends on like people whose parents are autoimmune. Like there's like so many, like there's a difference between friends of mine who live alone, who are like quarantined basically all the time, but like won't meet up with someone.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, versus like my friends who are like, I live with like my sister who's autoimmune disorder. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. But like friends of mine who I think are just being like, oh, now the pandemic is my new excuse to not be vulnerable with another person.
But don't you think that that's a different question?
Yeah, like, it's like, why?
That's a different question.
It's hard. People,
super challenging. Humanity is complex. I think that the really important thing is like we all are coming to this pandemic table with different people that we have to consider when we make decisions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so the reality of anyone's life, and also like really where the tolerance is for solitude, where the tolerance is for lack of touch, where or for touch. I mean, some people just are not interested. That's not really where their pleasure lies.
No, totally.
Right? So I think like recognizing that there's not one answer is really important, that people are going to and also this is really stressful.
Yes.
Depressed.
And so the way we showed up before is maybe not going to look like we would have done now, because we've never lived through this before. We don't have a guidebook for how to put one foot in front of the other. We're literally like, oh my God, how did we wake up? And today is March, whatever today is.
Right.
Right? Like, it's shocking. And so I think like we're all doing the best we can, making the best decisions that we can, and trying to stay whole. And that may be delivery for some folks. Like, I don't want to tell you what my Seamless account looks like, because I literally put the energy to like roast a chicken.
Yeah.
And that's just where my stuff ended, right? My kid's going to turn into a burrito. But we're making it. We're putting one foot for the other. So I think that's what folks are doing. And I think that like I want to give myself and everyone I know the grace to try to do that in the way that holds them whole, right? And that may look different for all of us.
Yeah, it's not sexy during a global pandemic. I'm shocked.
Well, and the other thing is, I've talked a lot about like people's libido, and some folks, I know folks who's like, for them, their libido like completely plummeted, and their partner was like, we're home together all the time. So many opportunities, lunch, like quickies at lunch and this and that. And people are like, if you touch me again, like I literally, and those people are partnered and a physical distancing at home together. So I think we have to recognize that like the way that we even cope with stress is different in our own relationships. So those are like real hurdles, I guess.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit more about people who are living with their partners during this time, and like the expectations of what your sex life should look like when you're together 24 hours a day?
Oh, yeah. I think it's funny. This is all uncharted territory for all of us. And some folks are like, wow, I'm really psyched to be home with this person. And other folks are like, do I know you? Did you like, did you used to breathe like that? Have you always breathed like that? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think those are both of those things are true. And we have our own emotions that affect how we hear your breathing today. And also how our libido functions as in proximity to stress or in proximity to whatever else you're dealing with. Are you able to get outside? That's stressful. Are you able to move your body the way you used to before? Some people aren't. Their libido drops when they don't feel great about their bodies.
Your kid is home 24/7 now.
Dude, there's no break. These little kids don't go anywhere. My little kid, she's like in the same PJs for 36 hours at a time. And she's like, I'm good. What's the problem? Yeah, privacy is also a real thing. And the demands of the people that you care for. In New York City, there's so much apartment living.
Yeah.
Like you hear everybody's everything.
Yeah.
That's life.
And what do you think it's going to be like as we transition back into a somewhat normal life for people who, haven't dated in a year plus and haven't had interactions in real life with people?
I heard a term online that once everyone's vaccinated, it's going to be the whoring 20s. Where people are just it's gonna be like the roaring 20s, but it's gonna be the whoring 20s, where people are just gonna go out and like spit in each other's mouths and like that. And, like,
I don't think I that's funny. And I'm also like, I was at some point, I don't even remember when, because what is time? But like at some point I was like, did we really used to eat the birthday cakes that someone would blow on? I am like, I will never. Everyone's getting their own cupcake from now on, or donut or something. Like, this is no longer a situation where, like, what were we thinking? But I think, like, yeah, maybe the whoring 20s are going to be a thing, but also, like, maybe folks are going to lean into, like, I used to be, running nonstop from 7:30 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. And now I'm like, ooh, I did one thing today. I think I got to go home and sit on the couch. I'm really stressed by that one chicken I roasted. Like, that's like, it's really interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see how our social skills return, like how comfortable we are alone, silent with our pet who doesn't talk back to us. And again, because humanity is so complicated, we're all going to respond differently. I mean, again, because I'm parenting this child, I'm really conscious of how she shows up, who she connects with when we see people in person that are masked. Like we were watching a movie and she was like, wow, it's really funny to watch a movie where people aren't wearing masks and I can see their mouths.
Yeah.
And I don't actually have a crystal ball to know what it's going to be like. It could be all of those things, depending on how each one of us shows up in the world. This feels like such a wild roller coaster for me. And to think about also how is this going to impact our development? How's this going to impact the way young people are connecting, like we mentioned earlier, are learning about themselves, seeing themselves. Maybe online young people are being affirmed because they're seeing more than what's just offered to them in person in their community. Maybe that's an amazing thing. Maybe we're seeing like connection, like, from a Planned Parenthood perspective, what I'm hearing is that opportunities for sex education to really lean into the digital space has actually bridged gap, because kids who didn't have a ride to something, especially if they were in rural spaces where things are miles and miles apart, where that now everything is online. So folks can get connection and access and connect to other peers, connect to adults who they can, feel trust and build trust with. Like, these are new opportunities. So I think it's going to be, how do we move forward? Not do we go back to anything?
Just between us.